Welcome back, everybody. So today I was doing what I usually do on a Friday night, which is pretty much read stuff on the internet. Since due to COVID, there's really not much going on these days. So I usually spend my time reading or watching a movie or just watching some more YouTube. When I found something very, very interesting on the web today, which was on Psychology Today, and the title was "The Psychology of Sexual Regret." Now I'm gonna be straightforward with you guys. The title might sound very misleading. At first, I was wondering, like, what do they mean by sexual regret? Are we talking about like one night stands, or are we talking about, a different kind of sexual regret, as in like sex in general, or the topic could be a lot of things. Sexual regret. Are we talking like gender regret? Anyway, long story short, it's pretty much it. We're talking about one night stands, to sum it up. So for a lot of people, they're probably in a hurry. Then again, if you're in a hurry, I don't know why you're watching the video that's like about 10 to 12 minutes long. But anyway, so the whole point of the article itself is actually well summarized by David London. And honestly, the article itself is pretty straightforward. I was actually expecting a little bit more, how do we call it, spice, I guess, as people would say nowadays. But you know what, the article is pretty well summarized, so I'm pretty much going to go to the fun of it, which is reading the original article. Now, for those that actually kind of skipped everything that I'm saying and kind of opened the article right now, you're going to notice right away there's something called key points that pop up in the beginning. And I kind of blurred it out on purpose because I don't want you guys to kind of get the punchline, in other words, of the article itself. But anyway, I was basically reading the article. I completely agreed with it. It made sense to me, honestly. Kind of shows a little bit of like, maturity from my side. Because if you would have asked me the same question like 10 years ago, I'm pretty sure I would have given you like a whole different answer. But anyway, so back to the point. What I did was, and I think my university teachers are gonna thank me for this down the line. I actually went straight to the sources and I tried to find the original article, and boom, here it is. I took a look at it right away. Now, for a lot of people who are not used to reading these things, especially people that didn't study psychology at all, this is a research paper. This is the basically the paper that the article is based on. Now, I kind of went ahead and took a little bit snippets of the important parts here that I kind of feel like sharing with you guys. And honestly, I kind of feel like the way it's written here, it's a lot better than the article, even though it's a little bit longer and a little bit more intimidating as well. I still encourage you to actually read both of them, the Psychology Today abstract as well as the original article itself. Now, looking at the original article here, you're going to notice a couple things. Yes, it's not as flashy as Psychology Today, but honestly, it's pretty well written as well. You have the abstract version and everything. But once you get to the meat of it, which is the introduction, it kind of gives you a gist of what's going on here and what you should be expecting on seeing here. Now, there's a couple things I wanted to point out, which I personally feel is very, very appropriate. So I'm gonna do a rundown of the article itself. Now, I still encourage you guys to read the article because at the end of the day, it is well written. Matter of fact, it's so well written. For me personally, I don't think I could have written something that precise, straight to the point. Because what I did was I kind of went to the original article, read a little bit, and I kind of told myself, you know what, I'm gonna make a video about me pointing out a couple flaws or a couple things that were missed out. But honestly, they were pretty straightforward, and I actually greatly enjoyed it. For once, I have to agree. This is amazing. This is straight to the point. However, it did leave out a couple spicy things, which I'm going to point out right now. So, let's go to the first thing that I noticed, basically. Now, for a lot of people that are not used to doing surveys, my background is a little bit different. So, when I was in school and everything, especially for university, so post high school, I had to do a lot of research papers. I had to do a lot of like surveys and stuff like that. So for me, doing a survey, I can definitely relate to the person. But for those that have actually handed out a survey and had to get people to follow up on things like this, it's kind of a pain. The reason why is because not everybody's going to be consistent. You're not going to get lucky all the time. It's kind of easy saying, oh, I'm going to get, 10, 20, 40 people. Now, this survey is actually a little bit bigger than just 10, 20 people. It's a bunch of people, and I'll get to it into it in a minute. In the original article of Psych Today, kind of just mentioned like about 200 or so people. Please feel free to quote me down there. I completely forgot about it. But anyway, I digress. This article did not mention something I feel might have been a little bit important, which is the fact that when it comes to the survey people, there is actually a big, big difference of people. So, for example, I'm going to skip ahead here on the article for those that are actually reading the original one. This survey was already started with 529 students, 63.2% of them being women. Now, you might be wondering, Chris, what are you talking about? What's a big deal? It's women. Well, let's be honest here for a second. I think we both agree that when it comes to, how can I put it in a way, one night stands, it's kind of a big deal between, or there is somewhat of a big difference between a guy one night stand and a woman one night stand. Now, I'm not saying in any way that this study is flawed or because of that, but I do agree in the fact that, ideally in an ideal world, I think it would have been a little bit better to just try to keep it closer to like a 50-50 ratio. Because as you're going to find out later on in this video, there's definitely a way they did it. There's a way that, they kind of asked these questions that I kind of feel would have made a big difference between a woman and a man. And I think that also kind of affected some of the results as well. But anyway, back to the point. So, as I was saying earlier on, there's a couple things that caught my eye, and I'm going to start with this one here. If you're reading the article, you're going to find this out pretty early on, but there's this little section that I'm going to show you right now that basically sums up a little bit more about what regret is. Because even for me, we'll be honest here, regret is a big word. For a lot of people, it can definitely give you some flashbacks, some PTSD for those that, kind of had bad experiences. But, it's kind of like saying, can you quantify regret? Can you quantify happiness? Now, some people are going to argue with me, of course, there's something on hedonic treadmill. You can definitely do that. It's quantifiable. Blah, 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 blah. Now, I'll be honest here. Good for you if you have the science to back that up. I personally did not finish the study, so I would not be the best person to tell you this. So, full disclosure here, guys. Don't take my word for it. Do your investigation. Do your own research. But anyway, what was mentioning early on, here it is. This is what I wanted to point out, and it mentions this little part I highlighted for you guys. For women, regret seems to be driven by partner equality and sexual arousal, as women regret less when they take the initiative to having sex and regret more when experiencing disgust. Now, there's a reason I wanted to highlight this, and the reason why is because I like the keyword here, disgust. Because let's be honest, I think we can all agree that disgust is indeed one of our primal emotions. We experience it as a kid, we experience it as an adult, we experience it all our life, and we can definitely agree that there's certain things that are definitely going to hit us hard, such as, anger, love, disgust, happiness, and so on and so forth. But disgust is a very primal thing. Now, the reason why I want to emphasize on this is because I would not be using the word disgust very lightly. For example, I'm not going to be talking to a friend and saying, you know what, I find this food disgusting. Unless it's really that bad. I would most likely change my wording and probably explain it in a different way. Saying something around the lines of, you know what, this food sucks. This food is, not salty enough. This food is not seasoned enough. Now, for a guy that actually enjoys seasoning his own food, I'm never going to use the word disgust because it's a very strong emotion. And it's very something that, unless you really hit me close to home, I am never going to be using the word disgust. Now, the article continues by itself. It's a little bit long, so I still encourage you guys to read it. Again, I am always going to encourage you guys to get your own opinion when it comes to these things. But anyway, so we continue to the next part that I found very interesting, which is basically how they were doing the methods on how to answer the questionnaires and stuff like that. Because for those that are still reading the article, I strongly recommend you kind of stop and listen to me at this point here. But the questionnaire itself was basically asking a couple questions, such as, hey, what exactly is sexual regret, in other words? That's a keyword here. And how can we quantify it? How can we tell if it's actually good or bad? And so on and so forth. Now, they kind of sum it up to one-night stands, in other words. And there's ways they're doing this, and there's ways they ask these questions. Now, I'm going to skip to the part of how they basically ask these questions, and I've highlighted it as well right here. And it shows a participant involved in responding to an online questionnaire once or twice, now and again, approximately 4 months. Some of the questions are sensitive related to sexual acts and choices you may have made. Responding may cause some discomfort and embarrassment. There's a reason I also highlighted this again is because the keyword here I want to emphasize again, responding may cause some discomfort and embarrassment. Now, I think we can all agree here that at some point we've already had some ideas in our head. But when we tried expressing these ideas, it's only then that we realize, you know what, this sounds crazy. And this is what I wanted to point out as well, because for me, again, personally, I'm not trying to judge the study itself, but I do want to emphasize the fact that, you know what, the way this was brought on, especially for me, I can only speak for myself here, in my personal opinion here, I think that if somebody was to ask me a question like, did you do it in the X and Y position? I personally wouldn't be shy about it. I'll be like, yeah, you know what? I pretty much did that. Now, if they ask me another question like, did you do something with your mouth that you might not have done normally with somebody else? Now, for the adults here, Google rusty trombone or don't. But anyway, long story short, somebody told me about it recently. So I don't encourage you to Google it, but if you do know, you do know. So if somebody would have asked me that question, and let's just say in this situation I kind of agreed to it, and I did it, I don't think I would be comfortable kind of saying that, and I think that would indeed affect my answer regarding if I feel regret or not. Which again is a little bit different, honestly. It's something that, for a lot of people here, I think might sound good at the moment, but saying it again might definitely affect the way you react. Now, this study was carried out across a long time, so it wasn't as simple as just saying, hey, listen, we're going to ask you this question Monday and then ask you another question on Friday, for example. Now, the next part here, you're going to see here, and I took a snippet again. There's a couple ways they kind of graded these things, and I took a snippet of the first one, and I kind of left a couple of other ones here for you to read. So here's one criteria, which is the partner quality, short-term and long-term attractiveness, along with ratings of their own global attractiveness as a long-term and short-term partners. Then there's the name of another study. The participants rated short-term and long-term attractiveness of their most recent one-night stands partners on a 7-item Likert scale with anchors -3, well below average, and +3, well above average, and midpoint 0, average. For this study, only their partner's short-term attractiveness was applied. Now, I kind of want to take a look into this as well. The reason being because, again, I want to use the keyword here, attractiveness, because let's be honest here. This study was primarily conducted in the, I think, Scandinavian countries. I'm really not good at like geography, so just double check with me real quick. But I'm pretty sure Scandinavian. So what's going on basically is that, let's be honest, it's kind of different for everybody what attractiveness is. For some people, it's all about the swagger. For other people, it's all about the confidence. And for some other people, it's all about the symmetry. And by symmetry, I mean by their personal good looks. And I think this is, again, to match with the other question I was mentioning earlier regarding the whole questions of, if they were to ask me X and Y questions, and some of them might have been a little bit too intimate, in other words, and then you kind of had to ask me this question saying, was this person attractive or whatnot, I think it would make a big difference. And I'll tell you why. Because if I feel like I did something that's pretty standard, like, let's put it this way, some vanilla stuff, and then all of a sudden, they ask me, was this person attractive? I'll be honest, unless I'm doing something weird and I'm in a weird position where I'm seeing something I probably don't want to be seeing, or smelling, again, sex is very, very special. Chances are I'm probably going to find the person attractive, because again, this is my personal opinion, but a lot of times you're trying to get with someone you're going to find attractive. Now, as a man, it might be a little bit different. Some people are going to be like, you know what, it's all about quantity over quality, which the study kind of pushes down the line, hints to the future of what's going to show up. Versus women, which is more kind of like, you know what, at the time it kind of felt good, but later on it kind of felt like, meh, it could have been a little bit better. And I'm trying to quote my inner, 90-day fiance here. But anyway, so there's the other criteria as well. Initiative, participants rated agreement on a 5-point Likert scale from 1 strongly disagree to 5 strongly agree to the following statement: the last time they had casual sex, I took the initiative to have sex, blah, blah, blah. And then another one again here, to discuss, which is again a big keyword here, and gratification, which is one way of basically grading all this. This article basically continues with the study itself, and it kind of asks a bunch of these questions. Now, there's a big part that I'm not going to cover in this video, which is the question of how did they do the math and everything. But the results come in, and basically it kind of answers, spoiler alert, it kind of says, and I'm going to post it here again on the screen: after this first test of function of action and inaction, short-term sexual regret, we must conclude that there is no evidence of a predicted functional effect on sexual behavior. Now, you might be wondering, what the hell are you talking about? I came here because I wanted to know if one-night stands are good or bad. Well, there's a reason I kind of didn't want to jump into the conclusion, and for those that actually kind of jumped and read the article right away, it kind of gives you your answer. But this study in general was basically just to find out, in other words, is a negative one-night stand, or is a one-night stand, or one-night stands in general, casual hooking up, gonna affect the individual's sexual behavior long-term? In other words, to oversimplify it, in my case, I'm going to give you my example. Does a really bad hookup mean that from now on I'm going to be super cautious and everything? Now, I still recommend you read the original article, because the original article itself, the original paper, it actually goes into many hypotheses that I feel very, very interesting, and some of them that I probably would have made myself. So to answer this question, when it comes to these things, there is no evidence of a predicted functional effect on sexual behavior. However, if you do read the article a little bit more, you're going to notice the difference between men and women, which I'm going to show right now in an unblurred section of Psychology Today. But Psychology Today kind of gives you a pretty good example And it shows you basically that the keywords here, and this is why I didn't want to show you guys at the beginning, women are more likely to regret indulging in casual sex, while men are more likely to regret missed opportunities for it. Psychologists believe that regret motivates people to learn from past mistakes and avoid them in the future. But contrary to this theory, new research shows that despite feelings of sexual regret, people don't change their patterns of sexual behavior. So to sum it up, guys, I did not want to make like a 20-minute video of this. But I also didn't want to make a 2-minute video of this, because I'll be honest, Psychology Today kind of like beat me to the punch. It kind of went ahead and kind of gave you the answer right away. Because at the end of the day, I think we all came here expecting to find a little bit more of a better answer, more detailed answer. But the study itself kind of answered something completely different, which is honestly the sexual behavior. Now, you might hate me at this point. You might be wondering, but Chris, how come that, I came in here expecting you to tell me that, this and that and whatnot. Well, you know what? That's part of making a video. I kind of wanted to share this with you as well, because that is literally the reaction I got from reading this article at the beginning. I came in with high expectations, different expectations. I walked in, and then boom, within the first 2 lines, I get the key points, I get my answer, but I wasn't satisfied. So I went and I took the time to actually read you guys the original article and kind of summarize it a little bit more and point out the key features I kind of felt like sharing with you guys. Because at the beginning, the article itself, just to sum it up, the article was very, very well written. I have to say, the Psychology Today, I keep on going there every once in a while because they write amazing articles, and it saved me the original time of reading the super long articles. And again, I'm not in university anymore. I really don't feel like spending half an hour reading these things. And for somebody that's dyslexic, it kind of sucks, okay? It really is horrible to read these things. But I kind of felt like sharing the information with you guys because it's something fun, and I kind of feel like it's worth the share. Now, that's pretty much going to be it for today. I do want to thank anybody that's listening at this point and kind of like stuck by and then just jump to the conclusion, find the original article, and get their answers. And for that, I am going to wish you all a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. This was Critical Chris, and have a pleasant day.